A reading from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 15, verses 25 through 31. This is a continuation of the parable we started last week about a man who has two sons. This is the perspective of the elder son. Now, his elder son was in the field, and when he came and approached the house, he heard music and dancing. He called one of the slaves and asked what was going on. He replied, "Your brother has come, and your father has killed the fatted calf because he has got him back safe and sound." Then he became angry and refused to go in. His father came out and began to plead with him, but he answered his father, "Listen, for all these years I have been working like a slave for you, and I have never disobeyed your command. Yet you have never even given me a young goat so that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came back, he who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fatted calf for him." Then the father said to him, "Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours." This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
I hope you'll find yourself somewhere in this story today. It begins, as Charles mentioned, there was a man with two sons. Say that with me again. There was a man with two sons. And this is how the parable begins. And it's incredibly important for us to remember that if we are fully going to receive all that Jesus has for us in this story today. We often refer to this as the parable of the prodigal son. But to do this puts us in danger of forgetting that it's really a story about a father with two sons. And so with that in mind, we turn now from the second son to the first so that we can see what Jesus might be trying to show us through the relationship with this compassionate father and his eldest boy. Remember what's going on here. Last week, the younger brother asked the father for his inheritance, which was paramount to asking him or to saying to him, "Dad, I wish you were dead." The father then liquidated his share of the assets, gave it to him. The son took it, he squandered it, almost hit rock bottom, found himself working as a hired hand on a pig farm, which would have been a big no-no for these Jewish people. And then the son comes to himself, though, decides to go home to see if he can serve as one of his father's slaves. And of course, we know how the father welcomed him back, with a kind of shameless, undignified response. Meanwhile, and that's how the text begins, meanwhile, if we were going to retitle this sermon, we might title it, Meanwhile, while the party was going on, the elder brother hears the music, sees what's going on, and is informed that the party is already underway. His snot-nosed little brother, who'd taken off with up to a third of their property, had now come back empty-handed, and instead of being greeted with a customary beating, he was reinstated, embraced, reinstalled, given robes, rings, new shoes, all while their best cow was being turned into brisket. Rembrandt painted this scene, you can see on the front of your worship guide, as if the elder brother witnessed the welcome. But that was artistic license. He did not. He didn't see his brother stumbling down the path. He didn't hear his attempt at explanation or repentance. He likely never saw holes in his brother's sandals or smelled the stench of pig in his brother's hair. Because by the time he got there, the music was loud, the dancing was live, the barbecue was smoking hot, and his little brother had been cleaned up to once again look like he owned the joint. And the elder brother was, as many of us would rightly say, ticked off. Father? Father? Father! He had to yell because the music was so loud. And he had to yell because he wouldn't go inside his own way of shaming the father. Father, son, you'll never believe it. You'll never believe it. He's home. Your brother, he's home. He was dead, but he's now alive again. He was lost, but now he's found. We must celebrate, son. We must. How dare you? Are you kidding me? Really? Really? This son of yours, notice how mad he is. This is how you refer to someone when they're angry. This son of yours has taken our land, takes our resources, destroys your reputation, squanders everything so that he can live as loosely as he wants to, and you do this? Unbelievable. I mean, come on, Dad. I've been here with you for years, holding it all together, doing what's right, slaving away for you and for everyone else, and you've never even given me a goat. And now he comes home and you slay the best cow for him? And now we're getting to the heart of the matter. The point of comparison here is hard to miss. And it comes with important questions that are likely buried deep within the psyche of every single one of us. Namely, do you love me? Do you love me? How much do you love me? Do you love him more than you love me? Can you hear it? I know I can. Can you feel it? All these years I've been slaving away for you, and you didn't even give me a goat? And now this? And now he comes home back to this? Let's go with the pulpit. Brad. Hey, Brad, let's go with the pulpit. All right? Okay. Our defensive reactions when we're fighting with loved ones are rarely about what we say they're about at first. They're usually about something deeper that's going on. This is not about the brother getting his choice of meat. If he wanted meat, he could have had any meat he wanted, because remember, the meat was already his. When the father says, "You are always with me, and all I have is yours," the son could have easily responded, "Exactly!" Because remember, the father has already divided the inheritance among them. He gave the younger son his inheritance and presumably has given the elder son his inheritance as well. And now there are laws that would give the father the right and the authority to do this kind of thing. But the real point is, the chickens, the goats, that calf, and all the property and resources that were left on that land belonged ultimately to the elder brother. It's not just that the father sacrificed the calf, but that he sacrificed the brother's calf. It belonged to him in a very specific sense, and in a more general sense, like we talked about last week, it belonged to everyone else that the younger brother took it from. And while I do believe this older brother's anger was rooted in deeper questions of insecurity, I think it's probably difficult for us to actually understand the complexity of his struggle unless we understand that this worldview, the worldview the people in this parable would have had, was shaped by what was known as their limited goods society. In a limited goods society, the belief is there's only so much to go around. Only so much to go around. Only so much land to go around. Only so much to go around. Only so much money to go around. Only so much food to go around. Only so many resources to go around. If someone has, in a limited goods society, then that means that someone else has not. If I have more food than I need, it means someone else has less. If I have more resources than I need, it means that someone else has less. If I eat a goat or a fatted calf or a garden full of vegetables, then I have consumed things that others will now not be able to consume because we are living in a culture of scarcity. And good stewardship of our resources means we need to be meticulous about everything, how we use everything. And much of the world works like this, right? Much of our world, even now, works like this, which is why the economy of God's kingdom can seem so discombobulating to us. In a limited goods society, when the younger brother took his share of the inheritance, he wasn't just taking it from his father for himself. He was taking it away from anyone else who might benefit from it. And now, after all of that, when the father kills the fatted calf, it seems he's taking even more away from others for the younger son. Because the common wisdom is there's only so much to go around. That there's only so much of anything to go around. There's only so much of anything to go around because everything is a limited commodity. Everything. Do you hear me? Livestock, land, and love. Can you feel what's going on here? All of these years I have slaved away for you, and you haven't even loved me with a small goat. And now this son of yours comes back, and after all he's done, you give him this? You celebrate like this? You love him like this, Father? That doesn't seem fair. And he was right. It wasn't fair. It was over the top. It was extravagant, which begged a deeper question. The question that's buried deep in our psyche, well then, what's left for me? Do you love me? How much do you love me? Do you love him more than you love me? I imagine all children wonder this from time to time because it's hard for them to see that as parents, we, in the words of Dr. Seuss, have hearts that grew 3 sizes on the day that they were born, increasing in a capacity for love that most of us will never completely understand. Perhaps when the elder brother had children, he would understand this, but then again, do we ever really understand? I don't know. Though I am certain that understanding the meaning of what's going on here becomes even more difficult and provocative as we consider the symbolic identity of the elder brother. Remember, this is a part of a series. This is a part of a series of stories Jesus told in Luke chapter 15 about lost things, a series that he told in response to the Pharisees and the teachers of the law because they were muttering about Jesus welcoming tax collectors and sinners, about Jesus eating with the prodigals of his day. In their mind, Jesus was behaving shamefully. And in response, Jesus told these parables about a lost sheep, a lost coin, and even now a lost son. But they were also about 99 never lost sheep. We're being reminded here about 9 never lost coins. It was also a story about 1 never lost son. And who were the 99 never lost sheep? And who were the 99 never lost sheep? Who were the 9 never lost coins? Who was the never lost elder brother supposed to be in this parable? Who do you think? The Pharisees and the teachers of the law knew who it was. The Pharisees and the teachers of the law knew it was them. They knew that they were the 99 and the 9, just as they knew they were the elder brother. Because they'd been there all along. Right there with God, doing everything they were supposed to do for so many years. And they knew what they were watching now was Jesus behave with the prodigals of their generation just as shamefully as the unconventional father does in this wildly interesting yarn that Jesus is weaving. And they might have expected the story to end as we often think it does, with the older brother finally emerging as a punchline or as the punching bag that we've all wanted him to be from the beginning. I'm not sure if you noticed, though, that's not what happened. It's not that there aren't places in Scripture where Jesus calls them a brood of vipers or whitewashed tombs. It's just that that's not what happens here. But instead, in the midst of their muttering, Jesus chooses in this moment to put these words on the lips of the Father. You are always with me, and all I have is yours. Son, you are always with me, and all I have is yours. See, in the midst of the eldest boy's shameful grumbling, the father looks him in the eyes with just as much compassion as he just offered the prodigal, and he says, Son, you are always with me, and all I have is yours. Now think about that. Think about that. The truth is, this is a story of a father who had two lost sons. One that went away and believed he'd made himself unworthy and unlovable because of the choices he had made. The other who never left, believing he was making himself worthy and lovable by the choices that he was making. Neither seemed to understand that their father's love for them had nothing to do with their choices. Neither seemed to understand that their father had more than enough love to go around. Neither seemed to understand that no matter what they did or did not do, no matter where they wandered or how much they whined, their father loved them completely and couldn't love them any less. Son, you are always with me, and all I have is yours. The Father's love is unlimited. But there is a twist to this story that couldn't have existed in the previous two. See, when the shepherd finds his lost sheep, he simply hoists the sheep up on his shoulders and brings him home. And when the woman finds her lost coin, she simply picks it up, puts it back in her purse, and throws a party. But when the father reaches out to his lost sons, well, you know, with human sons and daughters, it's never quite so simple. The German pastor Helmut Thielicke calls this parable the parable of the waiting father. And I think, all things considered, that's a pretty good title. Because throughout the parable, with both boys, the father is waiting. That is exactly what he's doing. The father first hopes and prays and watches and waits for his youngest son to return. And then, even as he's celebrating the homecoming of his second son, the parable still leaves him waiting for the first. Did you notice that? There is no resolution. We never find out if the older brother joined the celebration. We never find out if the younger son returned to his old ways after the party ended. We never find out if the boys reconcile with one another, if the family actually stays together, if there really is a happy future with a happy ending here. Instead, the father simply waits, and we're meant to wonder what happens next. And I believe the only one that can answer that question, really, is you. Remember, we're supposed to find ourselves in this story. You are in this story. The question right now is, who are you in this story? Are you the prodigal? Are you the elder brother? Are you someone else? And whatever your answer, what is it that you need to do next? What is it that God is waiting for you to do next? If you're wondering, I'll give you a hint. Look at the Father. Study the Father. Ask what it might look like for you to look and act more like the gracious, patient, kind, compassionate, love at all cost Father in this parable. Because God is calling us through this story to be more like the Father. Our hymn of response today invites us to do that very thing, asking us to ask God, the fount of every blessing, to tune our hearts and to tune our lives to sing God's grace. We do that now as we sing together.